The Police, Crime, Sentencing and Courts Bill, which is quite a mouthful, aims to give the police sweeping new powers, and it poses a serious threat to some of our most fundamental rights. There's two parts of the policing bill that we're most concerned about. Firstly, the bill would severely clamp down on peaceful protest. In particular, it would give the police the power to shut down protests that they regard as too noisy or too disruptive, and would massively increase sentences for protesters who fall foul of the police restrictions. Secondly, the bill creates a new criminal offence for trespass, and this would effectively criminalise the way of life of nomadic Gypsy, Roma and Traveller communities, and could result in their vehicles being confiscated, in fines or even imprisonment. And it could also limit our access to the countryside.
So I think a key thing to ask ourselves is, why are we bothered about protest rights? We're concerned about them because protest is actually fundamental to any functioning democracy. Today we enjoy a lot of rights and freedoms, but it's important to recognise that these weren't just given to us. They're rights that people fought for over the decades and over the centuries. A really strong example is the women's suffrage movement. Peaceful protest activities used by these women included chaining themselves to railings and organising huge marches. Ultimately, they were successful in their endeavours, and votes for all women was achieved. In the 60s, the Bristol bus boycott and the subsequent campaign highlighted the rampant and systemic discrimination against Asian and Black people in employment. This ultimately resulted in the Race Relations Act 1965, which made it illegal to discriminate against anyone on the basis of their race in either employment or housing. Now, all of these protest activities will have involved some level of disturbance and had some level of impact on other people. But that's the point of protest. It's a means of expressing dissent. So an element of those things is going to be inevitable. Well, first of all, the state has an obligation to facilitate peaceful protests. These rights are enshrined both in our domestic common law and in the European Convention of Human Rights. What the government is doing through this bill is trying to suppress dissent against its activities. This bill represents a threat against every citizen, but it will, if it comes into force, disproportionately impact on those who are already systemically over-policed. There are particular aspects of this bill which are very concerning in relation to the Gypsy, Traveller and Roma communities. Once again, this is about the state failing to own up to its own obligations. The state has an obligation to ensure and to protect the right of communities to preserve their unique way of life. Legal stopping places have been greatly reduced, which is forcing communities to pull up by the sides of roads and also in public places. The state is failing to provide these communities with spaces and is instead penalising them for this issue.
So what's happening right now with the bill? Basically, the policing bill is going through Parliament, and there'll be opportunities for MPs and Lords to change the bill or vote against it. We've got lots of activity planned to help people to spread the word in their community and to campaign with their MP. So sign our petition to stay involved. We've achieved huge change when we've come together to make our voices heard, from the world's first ever Climate Change Act to the recent defeat of fracking. Friends of the Earth will always defend the right to protest, and we hope you'll join our campaign.